Okay, the next step is to remove the speedometer connection, I guess. And that was a 1/2 inch head set screw here. And then this guy just slid out, and you can see the hole where this set screw was holding it in. I think there's supposed to be a wash or an O-ring there for seal. That's completely missing, but I'll have to check on that. It looks like there is one down here, but I think there were two if I remember the diagram right. Okay, the next step they say is to take this split ring out. I think there's one in there I can see, and remove the nut, and there should be a flat washer behind it. Now look at, hopefully you can see this. Look at how mashed up that is. There's something hammered on that castle nut, and so it's even hard to get the cotter key leg to bend up in there because it's mushed across. So I'm gonna have to probably break that off and hope I can pull it out from their side, but that nut's really been nailed. Okay, I got it out in 2 pieces. I had to punch it up, straighten it out, and it was still pretty tight. I put some WD-40 on it and worked it back and forth a couple times, and then it came right out. So that could have been a lot worse. Okay, the nut came off easily with the impact wrench. It's a 1 1/4 inch socket, so if you don't have one of those, you need to get one. This is a little concerning. This washer that was behind the nut, it's got a metal edge that's come up and folded over, and combined with the nut damage, I wonder if that nut came loose at one point and got pinched in there somehow. Something must have happened. So all right, next step I think is to tap this flange off. I also noticed that this shaft is mushed over on the end here. I don't know if that's from the nut coming off, but probably more likely whoever worked on this last, smashing it with a hammer to get the shaft into the bearing or something like that. But more somewhat worrying news here. I tried tapping this flange off, which is the next step, but it isn't just tapping off. I'll work on it some more. Well, I think this is the way to take the flange off. I was tapping it harder than I wanted to. Not quite as hard as the guy before, though, because there's all kinds of mushed metal around here where somebody beat the thing off last time. But I put the gear puller on here, and even with this little short-handled ratchet, it's coming right off. So I would recommend this method. There is a little bit of a hole in the end of the shaft there, for this purpose, I guess. Mine's mushed from somebody beating on the end of the shaft there, but it still works. Well, the next step for the TR4A only is to remove 35, a Circlip. But if I look in here, I don't see Circlip. I think I see only the rear of the bearing. There's supposed to be a washer in there too, so I thought maybe that was the washer that I'm looking at, but I got in here and just tried to pull a little bit, and it doesn't seem like it's a washer. So, first bit of confusion. I think I'm going to move on and see what happens as I keep going. I'm not sure. I don't see a place for a Circlip to even mount in there. Okay, the next step is to take this rear casting off. And I was going to tip it up to stand it on end to do that. But a big tip is make sure you get all the oil out before you stand it up on the end, because it comes running out of the new hole created by removing the top cover. So I'm going to go back and wash out some of that oil. Okay, it's all drained, at least out of this section. I just flushed some gasoline through here to clean it out with some cheaper solvent. And I think that I can drain the overdrive with that funny looking mechanism. And I might as well do that while I have it up on blocks here. And I did run a magnet around the bottom of that pan to make sure there were no needle bearings or anything from in here that came out. So good news is I didn't find any big chunks of metal. Okay, I tapped that off using a drift of some sort and very carefully lowered it because I wasn't sure what all was going to fall out of there from the exploded parts diagram. It looks like there's a lot of things that can come down. So, but it came off okay, and I think I'm going to put that back in and see if I can take the tail section off. I had one thought on this lack of circlip back here. Maybe that's because I have an overdrive and the equivalent circlip is in here somewhere. Okay, here's a look at the pieces that come off with that plug. And here's a good reason not to use a screwdriver, or maybe it was a chisel. But you see how somebody just destroyed that by hammering it in there? There's some of the other ones that are a little beat up too. There's one. That's why it's nice to use a very blunt punch or drift of some sort instead of a screwdriver or a chisel to get these off. But I just did a quick clean of it. And so there's a gasket here. They had 3 of these rubber rings below this strainer cap or strainer filter. So I'm not sure if I should have 3 down there or not, but I have to look into that. This thing was plenty full of gunk. There's still some in there, but I got a lot of it out. There was probably a 1/4 inch deep of gunk in there. So quick clean, and I'm going to put that back in so it doesn't drip all over as I work on the rest of it. Okay, stood up to take the tail section off. A couple boards here because the input shaft sticks out, so I have it spaced so it's not resting on that. And now it's going to be take out, I don't know, maybe 6 or so deals here. See what happens. Okay, well, this is frustrating. This nut back here, you can't get off with the solenoid, the overdrive solenoid on. So I don't know if I'm doing this wrong or what, but I guess I'm going to take this solenoid off and then take the tail piece off, even though I'm probably getting out of order here, but it's going to be easier to take that tail piece off with the whole thing assembled and standing up, I think. So I noticed that somebody really clamped this thing on here. It looks like the bolt might even be bent. I think that's probably over torqued, but we'll see. I guess I'm not even going to measure how it's on there or the angle or anything because I'm committed to just doing the whole thing from scratch, the whole setup procedure. Okay, the solenoid's off. You can leave the plunger in place. Another sign that this was a part, there was no lock washer on one of these solenoid bolts. That's our 5/16 head. So now I can get at this nut and take the tail piece off, I hope. Okay, this doesn't just lift off, and I'm worried that I need to take it apart here first. The book is not clear on this. First it tells you to remove the extension housing, which I can't get off very easily. And then it says, if an overdrive unit is fitted, undo these other bolts and take that apart. So I think it means that I should not do step 10 if 11 applies, but it would have been nice if they put that if condition above step 10. So anyway, I'm going to take it apart there, see if that works.